Stephanie. Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. We are in the middle of November, year 2020. It is hard to believe that the year is almost over. I know a lot of people are feeling the stress of this year and hoping for a better 2021. And although I do hope the same, I can't say I feel like once January 1st of 2021 hits that everything is miraculously going to be better. I consider myself a realistic optimist. I'm not sure if there's like a technical definition for that, but for me, what it means is that I like to stay positive about situations, but mindful of having realistic expectations maybe, and that way there's less of an opportunity for me to be severely disappointed maybe. Anyway, so yeah, we're in the middle of November and we're actually going to get pretty warm today. I think we're going to hit 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And so a lot of the snow that we've had is melting, and we might have some more snow coming in the forecast. Not a huge dump, but some. Anyway, what I wanted to do was hop on here today and just share with you some of the projects that I've finished lately. I feel like if I push it off, there's just going to be this growing pile and I'll feel overwhelmed, and then I probably won't share much of it. So sorry about that interruption. I think I was, 2 minutes in? That's pretty much how it goes around here. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I need to get the kids on for school. We are doing full-time distance learning here, and we have been doing that since the school year started for this year. Yeah, so I got interrupted because one kid wanted to know if she could learn how to play the ukulele. And the other one wanted to know if you could sneeze underwater. I told her I don't know if you can sneeze underwater, because if you go hachoo, usually you inhale first, right? Before you sneeze. I don't think you only sneeze out. If you know, you are welcome to leave a comment down below. And then I threw a load of laundry in because why not? There's always laundry to do. But yeah, so I am looking forward to sharing with you some projects that I have finished lately, and maybe some works in progress. And if I get to the part where I talk about projects that have caught my eye that I would love to cast on but haven't, if I get to that part, great. If I don't, we'll just save it for another day. And I'm also contemplating whether or not to do Vlogmas this year. So Vlogmas is where YouTubers will post either something every day or every other day, or some of them have modified it to weekly during the month of December leading up to Christmas. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to Christmas in the religious sense. People will just use it kind of to capture the winter holiday season and to show snippets of their life during December. I thought it could be kind of fun. We're not traveling this year, and if I limit it to maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes max videos, then there isn't a ton of editing. It could be kind of fun. I'm thinking about it. I think it could be fun. November 2020, so this is the 1-year anniversary since starting my YouTube channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. It has been really fun. Of course, when I started it, I had no idea this pandemic was going to hit. So my mindset for this channel in November of 2019 is a little bit different from where I am now. Although I guess my goals for putting out content isn't drastically different, because I was just hoping to put out some content, maybe a few videos a month. And aside from the couple months that I did not post over the summer, I feel like I've been pretty consistent. I will chat with you again in a little bit, and I will have either put in some footage before this little video or after, just sharing you some snippets of what I have been up to. So I will talk to you soon. Go get your beverage and check back in here. Talk to you later. Bye. welcome to episode 51 of my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things the kids say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes that you find some inspiration along the way. It is the middle of November, year 2020. It is the it is the 1 year anniversary of this channel. I cannot believe a year has passed. So much has happened since November 2019. That is kind of an understatement for everything that is going on around the world. I hope that you are doing well. I hope that you are being as safe as you can and that you are staying or working towards being healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you can do to keep yourself and your loved ones going. Today I would love to share with you some works in progress and some finished projects. I have quite a few things to share with you. We will see how much I can squeeze in. Here are a pair of Christmas socks I have made for myself. This is knit out of a Canadian dyer's yarn called Scrumptious Pearl, and this colorway is Apple of My Eye. There is a red, a golden yellow, and 2 tones of green, and I used a sparkle mini in gold by Autumn and Indigo for the heel. This yarn, the main color is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend, and I love this 80/20 yarn. I believe it is 400 yards per 100 grams, which I am finding myself really enjoying. I like that it's a plumper, rounder yarn. It's really nice to knit with. It doesn't split easily, and it wears really nicely. So I had split the yarn into 2 equal balls, and I am finding that I really enjoy knitting 2 socks at a time concurrently. So they are not on one long needle to be knit at the same time, which I think a lot of people consider TAAT, 2 at a time. So I am knitting 2 at a time, just not on one needle. So they each have their own needle. I like doing the ribbing, so the cuff I did a 2x2 ribbing, and I like doing that on 32-inch needles in Magic Loop. And then once I'm done with the ribbing, I will switch to a 9-inch circular to knit the rest. I find vanilla or basic stockinette socks go very quickly for me on the 9-inch circulars. I know they are not for everybody. Some people find their hands cramp. I think part of it is how you knit. So if you like really grasp onto your needles, if you're a tight knitter, or if you knit English style versus continental style, I think that can all play into how comfortable different needles can be on your hands. I personally find switching between Magic Loop, double pointed needles, 9-inch circulars, all pretty fluid for me. I can knit with all of them just fine. I just really like the 9-inch circulars because I'm never going to be like in the middle of a round where I have to set it down and the needles are going to be like stuck like this because I'm only halfway through half of the sock. Or with double pointed needles, kind of the same idea, or worrying about them falling out or kids taking them out. But with 9-inch circulars, because it's just going around and around, there's no like other breaking point. You just have a beginning of the round marker marking the start of your round, but even that isn't really like a hinge or a, can't think of what it's called, but like, you know, with Magic Loop you have 2 breaking points at each side. Double pointed needles, you have one at each, you know, cross of your needles. So I'm really enjoying using the 9-inch circulars. So yes, so I start with Magic Loop for the cuffs. So I'll do one cuff, put it onto 9-inch circulars, take that magic loop needle method onto the next cuff, and then put that on 9-inch circular, so I have 2 9-inch circular needles going, and then I knit through the leg. I can't remember how many rounds I did here, maybe 70 or so rounds for the leg. Anyway, I tried to do it so I would have the same number of color repeats all the way through. One goes in one order and the other one goes in the reverse order, just by how I wound up the yarn. And then I would stop and then cut and then put in my contrast color. Now, if you knit across your heel stitches first and then you're doing the slip stitching back the other way on the wrong side, that keeps it from getting that like kind of like a tooth, or I don't know, that slip stitch look between your two colors. So if you want a flatter or straighter, cleaner line at your heel, just knit across your heel stitches first in your contrast color and then do the slip stitching part on the reverse side, on the wrong side. So that's what I did there. And then I did the heel turn also in the contrast color, and then when I was done with that I cut the contrast color and then rejoined my main color, and then completed the gusset in the main color and the foot. And at that point I can switch back to my 9-inch circulars because they would have previously been holding my instep stitches, and then I'll pick up for the gusset using the 9-inch all the way around, and then go through. And then for the heel flap, I'll often do that using double pointed needles just because there's no like cable in the way or anything. I just need 2 double pointed needles to knit my heel flap and turn. So then 9-inch circulars all the way down. Once I get to the toe, I can go back to my magic loop again, just split my stitches evenly for the instep and the bottom of the foot. And then I like to do a rounded toe where you do like 1 decrease round where you decrease by 4 stitches, and then I knit 3 rounds, and then I do another decrease round, knit 2 rounds, another decrease round, knit 1 round, and then decrease all my rounds until I only have 8 stitches left on the top and the bottom needle, so 16 stitches total, and then I Kitchener that. Now I think based on how much yarn I had left in a color, for these socks, I think I did Kitchener when I had 10 and 10, so 20 stitches total at the end, just to not have like a little line of the next color. But yes, they turned out really nicely. The fit is great, and they are so much fun. Now, when I'm knitting my socks, I tend to use about 70-75 grams, I find, of yarn that's the 400 yards for 100 grams, which usually leaves me with about 25-30 grams of yarn left over, which is perfect for me to make 1 pair of child-sized socks. My children love wearing hand knit socks. They wear them all the time, so I continue making them. And what's also great is that when the older one grows out of her socks, they can go to the younger one, and they just get so much love and so much wear out of them. So with the remaining yarn that I have from those Christmas socks, I am knitting my daughter her Christmas socks. So I've just started them. I have the cuff going, and I reversed the order of the other yarn that was in reverse on my socks, so hers will actually go in the same order for both pairs, whereas I have one going on one way and the other one going the other direction. So I did the cuff in the gold sparkle, and then I'm going to keep going until I'm ready for the heel. I'll probably do 2 repeats of the color repeat, and then I'll break for the heel, do the gold again, and then knit the foot as much as I can get out of these balls. And then whenever I have to put in another contrast color, I'll just put in another contrast color to finish off the foot or the toe. So we'll see how that goes, but I love how these are turning out. They're really, really fun. Okay, so speaking of Christmas socks, the other set of Christmas socks that I'm knitting the kids are these. We're calling them Twinkle Toes. They're so cute. So I am using Paintbox sock yarn in, I think it's Fair Isle Candy Shop, is the colorway. It's a self-patterning yarn. And then I use that gold sparkle mini again for a heel here. And this mini is only 20 grams, and I have been able to use it in, I guess, 3 pairs of socks. I did a sparkle purple for the toe on these ones, also by Autumn and Indigo, and the girls decided on their own contrast colors. So I think these are for the older daughter. The younger daughter picked like a sagey green, but I can't remember if she wants that for the heel, cuff, or the toe, so I'll have to ask her when I start. But yeah, this really light minty sage color, and then here's that purple, and then here are the 2 balls that I have split up with the self-patterning yarn. It started as 100 grams, so there's plenty. I'll probably be able to knit myself a pair too, or maybe I'll do some fingerless mitts. But again, that's Paint Box sock yarn in Fair Isle Candy Shop, and this one is, let's see, 426 yards for 100 grams, 75% wool, 25% polyamide. And then, oh, for all these socks, I am using US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. I find my gauge to be very consistent with those, and I really like the density of the fabric when I'm using fingering weight or sock weight yarn for that. And I am putting those socks in progress in this adorable project bag that I made. So I think in a previous episode I had mentioned that Spoonflower had a sale for their fat quarters, and so I scooped a few up, and then they had another sale, I think several weeks later, a month or so later, and so I purchased a few more. Shipping I think was only $3 or something, and I can get out one like decent sized drawstring bag and then a tiny little sock or notions, if you want to call it a notions. I feel like it's a bigger bag than notions, especially if I do a box to bottom. That's perfect for one pair of socks. So it's super fun. They are knitting foxes and deer, and they're having hot chocolate or coffee or tea, and I just really, really love it. The inside of this one I have a light pink with dots as the contrast fabric, and I think this one I just use interfacing, and it's pretty sturdy. I think for the drawstring bag I might have used fusible fleece, so it's a little cushier, but it's really, really fun. Let me grab it once. So here's the drawstring bag version of that. On the bottom I used a cotton canvas material, and then I have this olive green floral for the drawstring channel, and the inside is so fun. It's like a dusty peach herringbone cotton flannel, so it's so soft and squishy with the fusible fleece and cozy, and I can fit easily like 2-3 skein project in here. 4 might be pushing it, depending on how far you're getting on your project. It might get a little squished, especially since it's a drawstring, so you lose some space on the top when you cinch it together. But it is a great size for the projects that I have been making. And then I always forget to mention this, but in the description box below, I always share show notes. So I have links to project pages down there, usually some links to items I may have pointed out. So yeah, I will share a link to the basic free tutorial pattern that I have been using to make my bags. Of course, I have made multiple not really modifications or add-ons maybe to them to make them the way I want to, or just based on the materials that I have. So dimensions may not be exact, and different fabrics may not be the same, or I use D-rings that have been added on through a loop, and I don't think that's in the pattern. But anyway, that way at least it gives you a start if you want to make some for yourself. And let's see, one more pair of socks that I want to share with you that is a finished project are these. These are the Zig or Zag house socks by Tiff. I am test knitting these socks for her at the moment, so I cannot tell you too much about them. I'm sure they will release soon. She is a very prolific designer who writes wonderful patterns. I have test knit several patterns for her in the last year. These are so much fun. They are DK weight socks, so you can use DK weight yarn or you can use fingering yarn held double. What I really like about that is a lot of times people will buy a single skein of fingering weight or sock weight yarn and then not necessarily know what to do with it. If you double it, then you have DK weight, and I find when I use 75-25% super rush merino nylon fingering weight yarn, that held together gives me a really good DK weight. And these are so pretty. I used 2 minis to do my cuff, toe, and heels, and then I used a full skein. Although I didn't use up the whole skein. I think I used maybe half to knit up the rest of it. There's a really cool texture zigzag pattern throughout, and it was just really fun. So I loved knitting these pair of socks. Again, I won't tell you too much in detail because they haven't been released yet, but I did want to show them to you. If you check out the hashtag zig or zag socks, I believe that's what it is. I'll put it on the bottom here of the screen. You can see what some of the testers have come up with. Yeah, so keep a lookout for those. The last finished project I'd like to share with you, I don't actually have on hand to show you, but I will put up a picture here for you. It's a really great way to use up maybe 5 grams of yarn that you have left over. It is from the Arne and Carlos Field Guide to Knitted Birds. This book is so fun. So it has a basic pattern for the birds, but then if you want specific designs or types of birds or birds wearing sweaters, there are patterns for those and charts and stuff with duplicate stitching. So far I have knit them using self-striping or self-patterning yarns because it's just easy to do that. And then literally if you have 5 grams of sock yarn, you can knit a bird. I started out, one of them I made using double pointed needles, but I found it really kind of fussy because it's such a small surface and then you're using double pointed needles. So if you have smaller or shorter double pointed needles, it might be easier, which I did find a little bit easier than using 7-inch because it was just too much to maneuver. And then the second time I used magic loop, and that actually worked out pretty well because you're knitting in the round, but the way the shape goes, it's pretty easy to do using magic loop. I hope to get several more birds made. Some of them hopefully will be made into ornaments. So yes, that is super fun. We are losing daylight here, so I had to switch spots. Hopefully the lighting is okay for the rest of this video. We are now into the works in progress. Now I do have more works in progress than what I will be showing you. These are just the ones that I thought I would share today. Let's see here. So I shared with you earlier the Christmas socks that I was working on for my daughter. Those will probably get finished up in the next few days. That's the great thing about children's socks. I cast on 48 stitches using the US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, and using the sock weight yarn in 48 stitches, it works up pretty quickly. And neither of my daughters like really long socks, so even faster. More socks. These socks I am test knitting for Lindsay of Lost and Bond. These are her kindling socks, and they are a sock or fingering weight. I think this pattern is going to be so versatile for so many people to use up that one special skein of yarn you're not sure what to do with. I think it's going to look great in tonals, solids, heathered, tweeds, variegated, speckles, basically any yarn. Now you may wonder why you would think to pair a certain dye job of a yarn to a certain pattern or project. I think there are some patterns that are that will shine more using a tonal yarn. So like something that's highly patterned or a lot of lace, it can get really lost if your yarn is super highly variegated or has tons of speckling. But there are other patterns that allow your yarn to shine through and not compete with the pattern. And I believe that this pattern is one of those that allows your yarn to shine and allows the pattern to shine simultaneously. The yarn that I am using is by Less Traveled Yarn or Traveling Yarn in the Thalassa colorway. It is Sarah's 757 sock base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and I think it's so pretty. It does look different rolled up in a ball or caked up than it does in skein form. And it's kind of blue with these rainbowy splashes, and I will show you how I have knit it up so far. I am using, again, US 1 2.25 millimeter needles, knitting them concurrently on 9-inch circulars. I started with magic loop for the ribbed cuff, and here they are. My progress keepers are by my friend Maria of Forest Charm is her Etsy shop. Woolen Forest is her Instagram handle. She makes these beautiful progress keepers, stitch markers. If you've been watching for a while, you will know that most of my projects are adorned with her knitting jewelry, if you want to call it that. But look how pretty that variegation and speckling shows up. There's this cool texture on there. Super fun. I don't think I've knit very many ribbed socks. I feel like a lot of the socks that I knit are like your vanilla or stockinette, but I am enjoying it. I really, really do like it. And the benefit of a ribbed sock is that there's a little more give and a little more stretch, but it also won't slide down as easily. Some people say that with their stockinette socks, there's nothing like kind of cinching it back in. I don't find it much of a problem in the socks that I wear, but I also knit mine with maybe a little slightly more negative ease. So maybe that makes a difference. I'm not sure, but I am really enjoying these socks. So that's all I'm going to say about that. More to come, and if you don't follow Lindsay, you can go ahead and follow her so you find out about when the pattern releases. The next one I'd like to share with you, speaking of ribbed socks, now this yarn is by my lovely friend Shobha of Serendipitous Wool. Now Shobha had a destash lately, and if you're watching this shortly after it's published, there might still be some yarn on her website, there might not. I'm not promising anything, but she had a destash where there is a lot of yarn that she has dyed as experimentals or seconds or just one of a kinds for a lower price, and super fun. Now I didn't know that Shobha had dyed any self-striping yarn before. I don't believe it was like a regular in her shop, so I snatched some up and they're so much fun. Look at how this caked up. So there's like a plummy purple, light pink, kind of a creamy beige color, and then a light brown. And there was no like sample knit up or anything to see what it would knit up as, but I had an idea it would look pretty nice. These knit up as 2 to 3 round striping repeats in the 4 colors. I am doing a 2x2 ribbed cuff and then a 3x1 ribbing for the rest. I have a rose gold pine cone on one and then a rose gold leaf with a morganite gem on the other. Again, you can guess, by Maria. And I just love how these are knitting up. I haven't quite decided how long I want to make the legs yet, and I'm still deciding what kind of heel I want to do. I think I will do a slip stitch heel, but then I was debating whether or not to knit it in a contrast color. The thing when you do a slip stitch heel is that you end up picking up more stitches around. So then if you are switching back to your main color, your colors will take up your rounds are gonna take up more stitches. So then instead of maybe a 3 round for each color, you might end up like 1.5 or 2. So I feel like because the striping is so minimal, we'll have to see how that affects the striping sequence. So I'm not entirely sure what I want to do about that yet. I could just not worry about it and just let it do whatever it does, which is probably what I'll end up doing, just to not have to think about it and not worry about it. Or I could do a fish lips kiss heel, which then is like a short row heel and doesn't affect the number of stitches when I come back around. So I think maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do a contrast color for the heel, and then in a fish lips kiss heel, and then pick back up with the main color. So then that won't affect the striping sequence at all, because you won't be picking up extra stitches. You'll stick with the same number of stitches that you started with before the heel. Fish lips kiss heel is a $1 pattern and heel knitting tutorial by the Socks Therapist. I highly recommend it. I think it's a great way to understand how sock construction works and some of the math behind it. And again, it's $1. So these are these socks. One more thing I wanted to share, but not something that I'm currently working on, is that I treated myself to a set of mystery minis by River of A Knitter's Homestead, and she had a shop update for mystery skeins, and I saw that they were in a base that I like, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's a 2-ply, 400 yards for 100 grams, and it was a mini, so you don't have any idea what color you're going to get, but I tend to not love mysteries unless I have a good sense of that artist's aesthetic. So then I have an idea of what I will receive, and as long as I am happy with their aesthetic and think that I could knit with any of those colors, then I would be comfortable purchasing a mystery set. And I love what she sent. So there are 3 sparkles in here. This one, this green, has a gold sparkle, and then there's this beautiful tonal. This lavendery blue with pink speckling has silver sparkle, and then there's this tonal pinkish mauve color, and then this purple, I can't tell if it's a gold or rose gold sparkle. I want to say it's rose gold, but I should just ask River and then she could probably tell me. But these colors are totally up my alley. I love them. They are beautiful. I'm still trying to decide what I want to make with it. I was thinking about a cowl, because I do want to use up all of them together. I think they're so lovely. The other option is to knit socks and do striping with them. We shall see. If I just do a cowl or mini shawl, then I wouldn't have to worry about the yardage. I would just knit till I ran out and then add in the next one and knit till I ran out. So I don't know, we shall see. So very excited about these new yarns, in addition to the yarns that I purchased from Shobha of Serendipitous Wool in her destash. So I highly recommend you go check out both of those dyers. So yeah, I think that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I once again hope that you are staying safe, that you are doing well. Cheers to being creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye.